Follow me.
All right, what is up, everybody? Shadow Scout 0013 here, coming in with a video on Shadow Collective. And I'm going to talk a lot about this one because I absolutely love it. I got 3 of the starter boxes myself, and an A5 and 3 Swoop Bikes, because I thought that this Battle Force was extremely good, and I loved Maul and the Mandos. And so if you're very interested in picking up a box and learning about Shadow Collective, then this is the video for you. If you are interested, you can head on over to the Discord, where you can actually talk Shadow Collective, look at different list ideas, kind of see the differences between the lists. If you've got, an idea and you need recommendations, if you want some tweaks, if you've got something that you're looking for, I'll talk a lot in Shadow Collective and Empire, with a little bit of GAR. We've also got other people who are very, very active in CIS. I think it's one of the most active factions in the Discord for sure. And then with Rebels, another close second for how active it is. So if you're looking for a great community, this is a really great way to get in to the community. If you also talk a lot and you want some extra entries in for the giveaway, which is the Shadow Collective, or sorry, not Shadow Collective, Shadow Scout, the logo for the Discord and all that stuff, it is the order tokens. So these are the greatest order tokens in the entire galaxy, for real. The high quality graphics and the high quality feel of the tokens brings a lot to the table. If you want to enhance your table and you want to make everything seem more professional, these are the tokens for you. There's only 6 left, and 4 of them are in carts, so I highly recommend them to get them. If you want to also buy them, you can use Shadow Scout in all caps to get 10% off, and I'm telling you, they are absolutely amazing, and we'll make sure that the customer service is great. The guy who does them is top notch, one of the best guys to talk to, and I reached out to him for these things because of how awesome they were and how great they looked. So I highly recommend it. If you want to win these, you can, like I said, be a YouTube subscriber and leave a comment down below, as well as head on over to the Discord to get extra entries in. And if you want, you can head on over to the Patreon there, where you can subscribe, and you'll get extra entries for being at certain tiers. And yeah, that is that, guys. So I will go ahead and get into the video. So thanks for watching. All right, what is up, everybody? Shadow Scout 0013 here, coming in with Void Walker from the Discord.
Hello there, everyone.
And today we are going to go over the Shadow Collective Battle Force, and we're going to talk about the different units that are included in it, a little bit of strategy stuff, because why not, and the future stuff that is going to come out for the Battle Force as well, and maybe even some predictions of whatever else. And then at the end, we will talk about the psychological profiles of who might want to collect this Battle Force. But I think it is going to be a very good beginner, and if you're getting into Legion, this could be a really good box to get into, because it's still a very powerful, Battle Force. It's got a lot to offer, and they're going to be adding to it. Maybe not like an insane amount like they would another, like a faction like Empire or GAR, but they are definitely not finished with Shadow Collective. From what I understand, we'll go over the roadmap for the rest of the units that will be coming out for Shadow Collective. But do you want to just go ahead and hop right into it?
All right, let's do it. So the Shadow Collective, or as it's known in the circles, Scam and Villainy, is the one of the latest factions that we have. This faction, as Shadow alluded previously, are the mercenaries of this game. So every time we talked about the different factions, like the Empire, Rebels, Republic, and Separatists, we briefly mentioned these mercenary units that you can swoop in with your faction specific units. And we just briefly went over them. Maybe we didn't even really talked about them, but today that's going to be remedied. We're gonna talk about the Pikes and the Black Suns and the evil Mandalorians. So I think we have a quite a good things to start. So briefly about Shadow Collective. Shadow Collective is themed based on the moles, like the underworld faction that attacked Mandalore at the climax of the Clone Wars. And I think they got the theme of this underworld faction down very well, from units to some synergies, even more thematically. And of course, I'm gonna let Shadow talk about it a bit more. So take it away.
Yeah, so yeah, this is definitely based on season 7 of the Clone Wars, where Maul gets together the Mandos, the Black Suns, and the Pike Syndicate to take over Mandalore. And there are Maul himself actually has kind of like a base of, one of the stained glass windows that is kind of thematic to the show on there. So what we can do is I'll go over, the heavy and work our way up to commander and talk about each unit that is in there. I think that the faction identity, if you want to call it a faction identity, because it's not technically a faction, it's I guess it's a battle force, even though we could really consider it almost a faction, but it's it gives independent in on most of the units, which is a huge boon to the Shadow Collective. So what we can do is I'll take quick look at everything. So if you just look at like the Black Suns and the Pike Syndicate foot soldiers, you're going to see that it has a keyword called independent on there, and these basically give what it says when you do not give the unit in order. So for the Black Sun Enforcers, it says independent aim. If you don't give this unit in order, it gets a free aim. And then for the Pike Foot Soldiers, if you don't give it in order, it gets a dodge. Now, very similar to the Capos and the Mandalorians also have independent aim, so when they don't get one. But the Mandos also benefit from getting in order because they also will get a dodge if they get in order. So depending on if you want or not to give these in order, they will get a different token. Now the Swoop Bikes gets an aim or a dodge, which is really, really nice. The only ones that and I guess Bosk will have independent surge, and Cad Bane has dodge too. The ones who don't have independent are Gar Saxon, so he kind of is going to be order hungry. Maul is also without independent, so you're going to want to give him an order as much as you can. And obviously the bus does not have independent. So those are the 3 units that you're going to most of the time be trying to give an order to, because Maul himself, you're going to want to put an order on him because he's going to be the big guy that you want, and he's going to be the heavy hitter. He's going to be your king for the battle force or whatever list you have him in. And so it's fine that he doesn't have one, but the command cards that he has usually will give him a token, so you don't really have to worry about it. And same with Gar Saxon, they've got different cards that'll allow it. And so that is, if you're looking for action economy, this is a great battle force that kind of utilizes that. So every unit gets 2 actions in the game, and to take an aim and shoot prevents you from moving, or having to move and shoot prevents you from getting an aim or a dodge or whatever else you need. So the fact that the units benefit from independent guarantee you almost like a free action at the very beginning before you even go. So it's really nice. And especially if you're about to get shot, or your Pike Foot Soldiers are about to get shot first because you didn't give them an order and you had to go with somebody else, but you still need them, they still get a dodge. And so if they're shot, they can use that dodge. And then I'll go over how, survivable the Pikes are, even with the white dice. And they are absolutely amazing. So even if you're just getting into this game, Star Wars Legion, this battle force could be a really great way to get started, even though it's a battle force on its own. And the other great thing is if we take a quick look at these, you'll see that on the Black Suns, that they have mercenary Empire or CIS. So if you start out with this battle force, you're going to be able to utilize these units in other factions. So the pikes can go in every faction. So if you get a whole bunch of them, you're welcome to put along in Empire if you start collecting Empire. The Mandalorians, though, are specific to this battle force, and Maul has the exact same affiliation as the Mandos, which is very beneficial whenever we talk about him in a minute for an upgrade to making him a commander, but he's an operative in here. And this battle force also allows you to take up to 4 commander operatives. So you can take 4 Black Sun Vigos or 4 Capos, or you can take a Black Sun Vigo, a Capo, Bosk, and Maul, or, Cad Bane, Bosk, Maul, Gar Saxon. You don't have to take any of the Capos or Vigos, but the fact that you can interchange up to 4 of these is really, really nice. You only need 2 core minimum, and you can have up to 6 still, so that's really great, especially if you wanted to do an all Mando list, because you can have up to 4 Mandalorians in this list. You can still have only up to 2 support, and you can only have 2 heavy. So that is a really great thing also about this battle force. So I think we can go ahead and kind of get into the units themselves. So the first unit that we're going to take a look at is the bus. So the bus is armor 5, hover ground, which means that you're going to treat it as like a ground vehicle. It's got reposition, so before it moves or after it moves, it can take a free reposition. It's also got transport, which means you can put in any core or special forces into the bus to begin with. And whenever you put a unit into the bus at the beginning of the game, that unit gets an order. So, and I'll talk about so if you put the Mandos in there, which is really good because they'll get in a dodge, and then after you move the bus onto the battlefield, you will deploy at speed 1 your 4 Mandos. Now, the only downside to this is they're now on the board and they haven't gone, and so your opponent can take a shot at them next turn and for the rest of the turn. But the other good thing is that they basically did more than a speed 3 move onto the board, and they have a dodge already at least, and you can upgrade them with the battle shield if you would like. So you can give them Super Commando combat shields, which gives them 2 shields. They're not rechargeable, but they can cancel crits or hits or whatever you want. And with the dodge on there as well, you'll be able to cancel up to 3 hits and or crits. But we'll talk about Commandos in just a minute. So back to the truck. It also has wing point rear, so if somebody shoots it from the back, they're going to get impact too. The chances of that are very, very slim unless your opponent has maneuvered in a way to get behind it, or you have turned your bus up to 90 degrees onto the battlefield to move on the other end, in which case someone can flank you and get those shots. But with the fact that you've got reposition, that's probably not going to happen very often. It does have 8 health, and it breaks down at 6 to only get 1 action, but you'll roll for it. And with only white dice and surging white dice, it's going to have a decent chance of saving, but still it's a 2 out of 6 chance of rolling a block. So that is the bus. You can equip it. Specifically in Shadow Collective, you can give the pilot as a raiding party leader, which all vehicles are going to gain demoralize. So whenever this unit starts its activation, if it were to basically roll for suppression, even though it doesn't, it's going to give out a suppression up to range 2. And it's also going to gain Allies of Convenience and Field Commander, which is very, very important because with Allies of Convenience, you'll see that Gar Saxon has this and Maul has this. Now, when you look at the top left corner of Maul, you see his hand. With Black Sun Vigo, you see the Vigo insignia, and then same thing with the Pack Capos. They all have a different type of affiliation to them, even same with Bosk. Because of that, you can't have, the Black Sun Vigo give an order to the Pikes because they don't have, they can only give it to their affiliation. With Allies of Convenience, Gar Saxon, Maul, and the bus, if it has the raiding party leader, can hand out orders to any unit it wants to. So that's the great thing. And this becomes a field commander, which is how it can give out orders to begin with. The other great thing about this truck in Shadow Collective is it has access to the Frenzied Gunner, which basically is when you're going to perform a ranged attack, you can add a white, black, or red dice to the attack pool, depending on what you roll. And you're going to roll a red dice, and on either a hit, you're going to, or a block, you're going to add a black dice. On a surge, you're going to add a red dice, and on a blank, you would add a white dice. So it's the ability to be able to add dice to maybe like 6 black, or, you know, a rainbow, and be able to put 4 in at range 4, critical 1, or 7 dice with impact 2. That's a huge deal. So it becomes a little bit more lethal if you wanted to add him. Now, the great thing about the speeder truck is that it really can pair well with the swoop bike. And I'll get to that in a second as well. I'll just finish with the speeder truck. The speeder truck can bring the Backworld Medic, which can really pair well with the Mandalorian Super Commandos, because the Backworld Medic, you only can heal. It can heal one of the Mandos, and you're only bringing 4 Mandos. When you bring a heavy, you're going to bring 4 altogether. And even though they've got red surging defense dice, which gives them a little over a 70% chance of saving, they can still go down. And so with the Backworld Medic, if one of the Mandos went down that turn, you can bring one back. And I'll also, when I get to them, talk about emergency stims, which will help a lot as well. Unorthodox Tactician, basically you're going to roll 3 red defense dice, and for each paint that you see, you're going to give out an aim at range 3, which goes really, really well with the Black Sun and the Super Commandos, but obviously it'll go well with anybody. And then the Unstable Astromech is also in every faction, and that is just basically at the end of your activation, you can perform an attack or a move, and then you're going to roll 3 black dice and suffer a wound for each hit or crit. So this can be great in some situations when you're trying to really get into a POI or the scoring of a POI. And if you've moved and healed and you're still outside of a POI and you need to score that round, then you can use the Unstable Astromech to get into that scoring position and actually benefit yourself as long as you can stay alive. So that is really the truck. Now, why I say that the truck can pair well with the swoop bikes is because if you decided to add the raiding party leader for 10 points, all vehicles in this faction right now with this symbol, which the swoop bikes have, are also going to gain Demoralize 1. So if you have 1 or 2 trucks, they're both going to gain the Demoralize. And if you have up to 3 speeder bikes, which you can take, you can have 5 vehicles that dish out a suppression to any unit at range up to 2. So they can do really, really well. And the speeder bikes can go into Rebels or the Republic for Gar. So that's also really cool. And then they are going to gain cover 1, which means if they're rolling for cover, they're going to roll a white dice and only the blocks will work. Independent aim or dodge. So if you don't give them an order, you can give them whichever one you want. Reinforcements just means that at the end of turn 1, after you've completed the round, you can have this unit make a free speed 1 move to get a little bit closer to your opponent. And then speeder 1 allows you to go over up to height 1 with the mini. So this is a great way to make sure that it is very mobile. So this one has an Overrun 2 Vibro Axe attack of 1 red and 2 white, which basically just means that it's neither a ranged nor a melee attack. So suppression's not going to matter when you're rolling. They're not going to roll for cover. You have to basically have your movement tool touching or overlapping any mini in the unit that you're trying to overrun, but you can use this attack twice. So you can pulse with the speeder move as well. So basically you have to do a speed 3 move at the beginning or end of your turn, if possible. And if it's possible, you have to do it. Now, if during your compulsory move, if your tool is overlapping and you're still able to land, then you can do a an attack with the overrun. And then maybe you do another speed 3 move, and you don't even have to do a full move because it's your first technical action. If that tool is overlapping, you can also do an overrun against that unit. And then for your second actual attack, you can use the heavy blaster pistols, which if you've got 2 bikes, will be 2 red and 2 black. And it's not fixed front, so you can shoot anywhere at range 2. And surging to hit with these is pretty good. Majority of the time, you're going to get 2 through. Sometimes you'll get all 4. So with a 50-50 shot, a little bit over 50-50 since you surge to hit with the black dice, and red dice are going to give you a pretty decent shot of getting a hit through. They can be really, really good, and they're really fast, but they're very squishy. They both would have 3 health each, so it's a 6 health unit, moving very fast with some pretty decent sized bases. So it is a great addition to the army. And again, like I said, if you pair it with the raiding party leader, you're just going to dish out a suppression, and then you can do up to possibly 3 attacks with them and hand out another suppression with your blasters. So this is a great way to hand out as much suppression as possible. And overrun, technically, if Maul is in your army and Maul is in melee with a unit and you decided to overrun or maybe like fly past Maul and whoever's in melee with, you can overrun a unit in melee. So you can help Maul out by trying to wound whoever is meleeing him, or maybe even take out the person he's meleeing so that it frees up Maul. So overrun is a very, very good attack. And so that'll bring us to the Mandalorian Super Commandos. So the Mandalorian Super Commandos have jump 2 as an action, and every action you can only do once except for move. So you can only jump 2 once, which gets you up to height 2, which is 12 inches vertically, which is really good. Like I said earlier, if you give them an order, they're going to gain a dodge. They have impervious, which means that if your opponent has pierce, you're going to roll extra defense dice that equals the pierce value. So if it's pierce 2, you're rolling an extra 2 red dice. And then inhibit aim, so if you don't give them an order, they get a free aim. Now, each of them have up to melee to range 2 black dice that they can throw. So you're rolling a minimum of 6 black dice, and then depending on the heavy that you choose, then you get to roll extra dice. So if you choose Rook Cast, she's going to have 2 health, which is really good, and she can add 2 red and 2 white to the dice pool at range 2 and in melee. So this can be a really good one. If you have her and someone else left, you're basically throwing a double rainbow. If you just have her, that's still 4 dice with 1 mini versus 2 dice for each mini. So you're going to roll a ton of dice with her. And she's got retinue with Maul. So basically, if she's at range 2 of Maul, she can get a free aim or dodge. And pairing that with defend or independent can really boost the Mandalorian effectiveness. So say that you have Maul in there, and you've got Rook. Well, let's just go over real quick the combat shields and emergency stems. And we're going to kind of compare the two. So the combat shields, like I said, give you 2 shields. So if you had given, Rook Cast, we'll just say we've picked Rook with the super shields. If she, at the beginning of turn 1, you're going to be able to give Rook an aim or dodge. And then if you give her an order, she gets a dodge. So maybe say she's got 2 dodges, and then she's got 2 shields. So that's 4 hit or crits that she can negate in that round or any round, but mostly that round because she's going to have 2 dodges. And then that can still be replicated on multiple different rounds as long as she's got the shields. The only problem with the shields is that they're not rechargeable and they're 10 points. So if someone shoots you with ion, one of the shields will flip down, and so you have 1 less shield to use, and then maybe 6 hits go through. Well, you only have 1 shield, so now you have 5. And then if you took the dodges for retinue and for defend 1, that's 2 more. So now you've got so 6 down to 5 down to 3. So you have 3 more that you've got to roll for, which any dice you have to roll, any defense dice you have to roll for Mandos is too much. You don't want them to be rolling at all. But the thing with emergency stems is not going to be affected by ion. So basically, if you take wounds, up to 2 wounds, you can put them on the emergency stems. So now the unit still has all 4 minis, but you have 2 wounds on the emergency stems card. Now, the next round, what you could do is you can move your bus to get close after the Mandos have gone. So the Mandos will then shoot with all their dice and then take 2 wounds. But the bus now can come by, even though if it was out of range, it can be now in range. And the Mandalorians were taken off the board that round. So now you can use the backworld medic to bring back one of the Mandalorians. So this is a great way to be able to still bring back and keep all of the dice in your attack pool for that round until you have to heal them. So emergency stims to me is better. It's also cheaper, and it's still 2 hits, 2 wounds. It's doing something similar, but it's delaying the dice pool from decreasing, which is going to be a little bit more lethal in the long run. So I highly recommend emergency stims. There's a lot of different training and stuff that you can go through, but if you want to get all of the information for what to add, then I would just look at one of the videos that I go over for Shadow Collective. The Super Commando jetpack rockets do come with the Mandos, so if you want to add that for an extra 8 points, you can. It's going to give each one of them a red dice, blast, critical 1, impact 1. So if you're shooting all 4, you have critical 4, impact 4, and again, they're not going to have cover. This is great against armor and or anyone that's got low profile because of the blast. So it's a great addition to have. Now the other little like heavies that you can bring are like the Super Commando, just generic guy, which gives you 2 surge tokens, which you can use offensively. It's just the only thing you're going to use it for. And then if you want the Gunslinger, you can gain Pierce with an extra aim, and or you can have the Marksman, which gives you a rainbow at range 1 to 3. The Gunslinger is only melee to range 2, which is still good because if you're in melee, that's an extra 2 white, 2 black, and if you spend the aim for lethal, it's going to gain Pierce, which is really good. But the Mando Marksman is probably what you're going to want to bring because it gives you 3 extra dice and precise 1. So whenever you do spend the aim from not getting an order because of the independent, then you can use that aim to re-roll 3 dice instead of 2. The Gunslinger, if you have the independent aim and then you take the aim and you're in melee, well, you can spend 1 aim to re-roll and 1 aim for lethal. So these guys are really good depending on how you play them. I like to play Rookcast because it gives the entire unit 1 extra health. So now you've got a 5 health unit of red surging saves and very speedy with their speed 3. And Courage 2 is really nice. All right, so that is the Super Commandos. We're going to go over the core. So the core, the Pike Foot Soldiers. So if we look at them, the Pike Foot Soldiers are a mercenary and have Danger Sense 2. So with Danger Sense 2, if you have suppression, up to 2 suppression, you can roll 2 extra dice in the dice pool. And so maybe the only 1 hit goes through. Well, you've got 2 suppression, so now you're going to roll 3 defense dice, and all you need is that 1 block. So you have a really decent chance of getting that block and keeping them alive. They also have independent dodge, so whenever they don't get an order, they're going to get a dodge. So you've got lots of ways to stay alive with these guys. Not to mention, they have outmaneuver. So outmaneuver allows them to use their dodges to cancel crits. And that's not an upgrade, that's naturally on their card. So these guys can use that dodge for anything that comes through to them. Now, self-preservation is going to also be on the Black Sun Enforcers, but self-preservation just basically means that they can't use the courage value of the Black Sun, or they can't use the courage value of Maul or anything else. They can only use the courage value of the Pike Capo. So that's going to be very important when you're building a list, is you're going to probably want a Pike Capo if you're not going to bring it in the unit itself. Now that you have the ability in this unit to bring a Pike Capo with you, it's going to increase your courage by 1 to give you courage 2, and you're going to have independent surge. So each round, if you have the Pike Capo on this unit, you're going to be able to get a free dodge and a free surge token. Now, that is definitely going to be helpful because they don't surge offensively. So you're going to be able to use that surge token for each offensive shot that you take. And they're all going to roll a black dice at range up to 3. And they roll 2 white dice in melee. And then for the heavies, they've got a range 1 to 4 gun, which is a red and 2 black, and impact 1. So this is great because this battle force is also really good at going after armor because each unit can basically have an impact weapon. So the Mandalorians can have their jetpack rockets that will have impact. The Pike Foot Soldiers will have the disruptor shield or the disruptor soldier. And then the Black Sun Enforcers will have the Magnet Enforcer, which will have impact 3. Maul will naturally have impact 2. Gar Saxon can bring his jetpacks. Bosk doesn't have impact, but he's got surge to crit. And then same with Cad, he's got surge to crit. So this unit, or this battle force, has a lot to offer against vehicles, which you're going to see a lot of, and anything that's got armor. The other soldier that you can bring, or the other heavy, I should say, that you can bring is the Electro Whip Soldier, which has Immobilize 1 and Suppressive, and it's 2 red and melee up to range 1. And Immobilize 1 is absolutely amazing because it can prevent an opponent from scoring, because when you give an Immobilize token out, it reduces their speed by 1 anytime you get a wound through. So you do have to wound them to get the Immobilize, but also being suppressive in melee can really help strip standbys. So if you don't aim and you have an independent dodge, that's fine. There's an extra card in here if you bring Maul that will have a free aim that you could possibly use if you wanted to. So that could really help. So that way your first action could be to shoot, and then you can dodge, and now you've got 2 dodges. So this unit can really do a lot, and it's only 10 points, which is really good to be able to stop a unit in its tracks if you need to, especially any armored unit vehicles, any trooper units, anything you want to immobilize. As long as it gets a wound, you're going to immobilize it. So very, very good. And yes, you can just bring a regular foot soldier to give you a free cash aim, so you can use that aim whenever you want to. But again, you'll only be courage 1, and suppression really hurts these guys in a way with getting rid of an action, but it really helps them defensively. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword on here. So if you want to be really safe, having a courage 2 unit that you can use danger sense 2 on is going to keep them alive and have them still get some pretty decent actions and not panic. And then if they have the capo, you don't have to, on the unit, you don't have to bring the pike capo as a leader. You can actually save those for like someone else. Now the Black Sun Enforcers, they're going to shoot 2 dice each up to from range 1 to 2, and then have a red dice in melee. So you're going to be shooting 8 dice versus the pikes. There you've got 1 black dice for each mini, so that's 4. If you bring the pike capo, that's 5. And if you bring the heavy with the disruptor, 6, 7, 8 dice at range 3, even up to range 4 for 3 dice at range 4, but 8 dice at range 3 and 1 to 1, I should say. Now, the Black Sun Enforcers are, like I said, short range, but they're going to pack a punch. And then they naturally have independent aim, which is going to give them an aim without an order. Precise 1, which is going to allow them to re-roll an extra dice when using that aim, so they're going to re-roll 3 dice. And they have Dauntless, which means that if they are suppressed, they're going to be able to make a free move action. So if they're at range 3 of a unit and you are suppressed, you can give yourself an extra suppression, take a free move, get to that range 2, and then try to annihilate whatever unit is there. So let's just say with the heavy is going to add 3 dice, melee to range 1, blast, and impact 3. So they're not going to have any cover when you roll, let's see, 8 dice, 9, 10, 11 dice with the Magnet Enforcer. Not to mention, if you have the Black Sun Vigo, which is almost the same thing as the capo, it's going to increase your courage by 1 and give you independent surge. And so now you have 10 dice you're rolling naturally, and then you add the heavy, so that's 13 dice with no cover. And then, or you can bring the Scattergun, which is a shotgun, from melee to range 2. It's 2 red and Pierce 1 naturally. You don't have to spend the aim for Pierce. You can actually spend it to reroll. And you already have Precise 1, unlike the Mandalorians where you have to have a heavy to get that Precise 1. This is already on the unit itself. And having Pierce and melee to range 2 is very, very helpful to make sure that you're finishing off a unit if you can. And so that would be 12 dice that you're rolling at range 1 to 2 with the Black Sun. And not to mention, there's ways for them to get even more aims than just the independent aim at the beginning of each round too, which I'll mention in a second. But yeah, these guys are going to be absolutely amazing at range 2. So we'll go ahead and go over the operatives. So Maul, Cad Bane, and Bosk are all operatives for this faction, and you can bring all 3 if you really wanted to. Bosk, we've talked about in Empire, so you really won't have to go over him much, but he's pretty much just going to be a really cool character. He's going to have Pierce 1 at range 2 to 4 with his has gone, you're really only going to be bringing either offensive push or on the hunt and seize the initiative to give him an order. And you're probably going to be bringing targeting scopes. That is the best way to bring Bosk. And regenerate 3 just allows him to regenerate up to 3 health. You're going to roll 3 white dice, and any paint you see is going to give you an extra health back. So really, really good. Cad Bane can be good in here as well. But the only issue with Cad Bane in this is if you've got a really big list, then you're unlikely to get his order token when you need it. So it's going to be harder for him to be in this faction, but he can be used. So that is a great thing to be able to bring. Now, let's talk about Maul. Maul is going to have 2 force slots, which is really good. And the combinations that you can bring are going to be very lethal depending on what you want to do. So with Maul, burst of speed and force push are going to be probably your top 2. I absolutely love force push and force choke because now he's even more dangerous and doing more wounds. You can bring saber throw and maybe burst of speed or saber throw and choke because he's got 4 red and 4 white and melee. When you use saber throw, you can throw 4 red at range 2. And he doesn't surge, but it's still a pretty decent dice pool for at range 2. And those are probably the only ones you're going to bring, the only 4. Burst of speed, choke, push, and saber throw. And you can choose whichever 2 you want. The training, you're probably going to either bring into the fray if you want to make him a little bit more defensive and stay alive a little bit longer, or you're probably going to bring tenacity to make him even more of a beast in melee. And that would give him 5 red and 4 white in melee, even though he doesn't surge. Now, there's a way to change this. If you wanted to bring the Darksaber, you can give him the Darksaber, which would replace the Maul's lightsaber of 4 red, 4 white, and give you 6 black dice. It would give you Surge to crit and Cunning, which means that if you lay down a 1-pip and your opponent lays down a 1-pip command card, you're going to go first. You're also going to give Maul the rank of Master. I'm just kidding. Commander. And he will have Impact 2 and Pierce 2 with this weapon. So 6 dice instead of 8. Not too bad. But you're kind of trading it off with the fact that you've got now Surging to crit 6 dice that are black. You can also add Tenacity to give him 7 dice and more likely to hit on more of the dice than the white dice. But at the same time, even though it might be equaling out a little bit, I like throwing more dice sometimes. So I like to have the 9 dice instead of 7 because it's possible to get a ton of aims, 2 aims at least, and some surge tokens with a command card. So I like it, but especially 5 red, and then you're probably going to hit with like a white or 2, which is going to give you at least 7, which is the max that you could get with the Darksaber and Tenacity as well. So it just equals out. It kind of depends if you want Surge to crit and Cunning as well as to be a commander. But with me always giving him an order, the rank never matters because he's always going to have one. If you do make him a commander, though, you can use his Courage 3 for the Mandos. Since they have the same affiliation, Maul can be the commander for the Mandos, and now the Mandos can panic at 6 suppression instead of 4 suppression. So this can really be very beneficial for the Mandos if you're bringing them. And then with the command slot, you can bring Improvised or Lead by Example or Inspiring Presence. Inspiring Presence could be good if your Mandos are very far away. So, and Vigilance is also going to be pretty good. But yeah, Maul is really great. And with Wound 1, he's starting with a wound, which automatically gives you Juyo Mastery and triggers Tenacity immediately. So there's a great way to go ahead and get that extra red dice as well as the 3 actions. So Maul's going to give you 3 actions, 2 moves, still max, but you can do a dodge, move, or you can move, attack, or you can move, recover, or you can recover, move, attack. The combination is endless. And whenever we get the objectives that possibly require you to pick up something, he can move, and pick up. So having the 3 actions is very awesome. And as a convenience, he can give out orders to any of the Pikes, Black Suns, anyone like that. Affiliation does not matter for him giving out those orders. And then last is the commanders. So if we wanted to talk about the capo is going to have aid, only other pikes. He also has danger sense 2 and independent dodge. But aid. So aid is an amazing keyword that basically when the capo doesn't get an order, he gets a dodge. Well, anytime that you gain an aim or a dodge, you can aid it to another pike foot soldier or just another commander if you really wanted to. But you're probably going to give it to a pike foot soldier. So basically, you give out the dodge from independent to maybe these pike foot soldiers, and now at the very beginning of the turn, they have 2 dodges and a surge token if you're bringing the pike capo. So that's 3 tokens they have before you've even done anything. Now, aiding does give them a suppression. So you probably have to be careful when and how many times you do it because you don't want to either panic or suppress your pike capo from moving. So some good upgrades for them could be, like portable scanners or something like that to hand out even more dodges, and you can hand out more dodges to Maul or something like that because you can only aid other pikes. So the fact that you can do that, if you had 2 or 3 pike capos, you can give 3 of your up to 3 core an extra dodge at the beginning of each round. And now that you have a suppression from handing out that dodge, you've kicked in danger sense, which now you're already rolling some extra defense dice. So even though it might seem like a lot, once you've played this a few times, it becomes very easy to kind of like understand, remember, and do. And like I said, it's still a very good one for beginners. This is all replicated with. Oh, sorry. Did you have something to?
Yeah. I actually have a question that might also new players have when they are looking at this 8 keyword. So you mentioned at the beginning, they get the independent and dodge, and they can pass it on to the affiliated, which are the pikes. Can 8 also be used when the capo takes, for example, an aim action? Can he pass that aim from his action to his posses down the line? Can he do that?
Yes. Yeah. So if you wanted to, you could independent that dodge at the very, very beginning of your turn. And then when it is the capo's turn, you can take a dodge and then hand that out as well. So now your pike capo or your pike foot soldiers now have 3 dodges. And then because you can only take the dodge action once, then you can recover all of that suppression, those 2 suppression that you would have on your capo. So now he's free of suppression, and you don't have to worry about him suppressed or panicking. And so that is a great way, again, to hand out more of those tokens without having to have portable scanners or electro binoculars. Yeah, that's a good
All
question.
right. And then the second question, let's say we attach capo to the pike soldiers, and when we attach capo, we gain the independent search 1. So do the pikes also gain independent search, or it replaces the independent dodge? How would that work?
So it doesn't negate the independent dodge. It stacks. So now you gain both keywords. You've gained independent dodge and independent surge. So at the beginning of each round, you'll gain those 2 tokens if you don't get an order.
Yes, and this would be also applied same in the reverse for the black sense.
Correct.
All right, so there you go. You guys, I hopefully answered one of the questions you might have.
Yeah, no, that was a good question. I think that's going to actually help a lot. And yeah, like I said, the Vigo is the exact same with the fact that it's got also aim or aid with there and Dauntless. So yeah, that is pretty much. Oh, and Gar Saxon. All right, the last guy that we got to talk about is Gar Saxon.
The main guy of this faction. We can't just let him out.
Oh no. Yeah, he'll have the same affiliation as Maul, which is good. So if he needs to, he's a commander, but he's got 2 courage. So you're again want to keep him from getting suppressed too often. He's going to have jump 2 and allies like convenience, but he's got compel, which means that if you have a unit that is, I think, at range 2 of you, yeah, within range 2, you can give them a suppression for them to make a free move. So this battle force really has a great way to negate being suppressed and losing an action Not only do you get free dodge or free tokens, but you can use Dauntless or Compel to be able to get a free move action if you are suppressed. Because when you're suppressed, you only get one action. So now you've been able to move still, and then now you can still attack or move or dodge or recover and get rid of all of that suppression on you. Yeah, so Compel and Dauntless are really good. And he's going to have Impervious and Sharpshooter 1. And he's got a four dice and a range 1 to 2 gun with Pierce, and then 2 red and melee. But you can stack him with a rifle to have instead, and you can give him a jetpack to have impact. You can have a flame projector on there, which is going to use the black and a white for each mini in the unit up to range 1. And he's, like I said, it's natural weapon. He's also got a combat shield, which does recharge. So during the end phase, if this unit did not flip any active shield tokens, if it's already face down, you can make it active. So this is a great way to just kind of keep a shield on him at all times. So that's really, really nice. And it is 10 points. And then, you're probably going to put whatever else you want on there. But that is Gar Saxon. And each operative and commander have their own command cards to bring. I don't know if there was anything that you wanted to add in before we hit the command cards.
Definitely. There are quite a few things I'd like to add. I will quickly jump back to the battle bus. I'd like to highlight the unorthodox tactician again. The reason why I want to highlight him is that I believe this is the only character for in the entire game who rolls his aims and then he hands them out. For example, in the Empire, there is a character for the vehicle named Governor Price, and Governor Price only hands out one aim token, but it's a she, right? The Governor Price. That was a girl, right? Yes. So, and she also gains a suppression to that unit. So you pretty much should take this guy because there is no downside. You don't give your units a suppression if you you give them DMAs. Obviously you roll for it, but it's a red die and you are already winning. So definitely bring this guy. I would recommend it. And you can also build the bus however you need to. Important too, if you get the bus here, you can also use this bus in the Rebels. It's the same model, same guns, only the upgrades are a bit different. And yeah, that's pretty much like the only thing I would like to add. Great things about the Mandalorians too is that Rook, like the other named characters, for example, like Gideon, are 2 health units. So as Shadow mentioned, they give you a boost to the survivability. However, you can only take her once, and she is a named character. So all the other Mandalorians, you were gonna have to spec them out, either be more of like a mid-range or in a melee with all the other upgrades. And then, of course, our favorite bounty hunters, Bossk and Cad Bane, remain, and they can be played in the other factions. And of course, Darth Maul, there's the model that you can use in both here and also the Separatists. And it's the only thing that is slightly disappointing is that when you bring Maul here, he doesn't get his probe droids, but for the amount of command cards you gain when you put him as a commander, I think it's well worth it. So yeah, with mentioning command cards, yeah, what would you say are your top 2, top 3 command cards for this faction?
Yeah, it's definitely all of Maul's cards. Now, obviously, Gar Saxon has some stuff, and you can bring all 6 of Maul's cards, whether you want to bring him the dark saber or not, which makes him better than the CIS Maul as well, because the Shadow Collective Maul has access to a command card called Witch Magic, and Witch Magic basically is going to remove 2 wound tokens off of Maul and any poison or immobilized token. So if you've used Burst of Speed, the next round you use Witch Magic, and that immobilized token that you gain from Burst of Speed is now gone. So it's basically a free Burst of Speed. And then Maul gets a free Recover action as well at the beginning. So that is one of the best ones. Seize What Power We Can is probably the best card for Maul. You're going to give it to Maul in 2 units, preferably probably the Mandos and a bus. But you're going to place an aim token and 3 surge tokens on this card. And until the end of the round, each time an enemy within range 1 of Maul spins 1 or more aim, dodges, or surge tokens, you're going to place that token on this card. And any allied mercenary unit can spend the tokens on this card as if they have those tokens. So not only do you get to start with an aim and 3 surge tokens, but if any unit at range 1 of Maul spends a dodge or an aim to maybe attack Maul or anybody else, you're going to take those aims and be able to use them for yourself, which is insane. That is so good. And then again, you can take all of Maul's other cards from the other faction CIS. And I would have to say, Gar Saxon probably has some other pretty decent command cards, with the fact that he's always giving it to all his Mando friends. Victory Death gives it to Gar Saxon and 2 trooper units. His 2-pip gives it to him and 2 other units, but you can only order within range 1. And then Marked for Elimination only gives it to him. But he's going to gain 2 aim tokens, and then the chosen unit he doesn't like is going to basically gain 4 observation tokens and 2 suppression tokens. So Marked for Elimination is true, but you're basically giving your Mandalorians Indomitable and an aim token with his 3-pip and outmaneuver, so they can spend dodges for to cancel crits, and they're going to gain a dodge token when issued this card. So now they gain 2 dodge tokens at the beginning of the round because of Defend 1. I would say, yeah, those are the absolute best command cards for Shadow Collective. What about you? What do you think?
I would definitely like to highlight from both, the coolness aspect and gameplay wise. I would like to highlight the Maul's His Eminence. And it's a very funny card because, Maul obviously with this card gets a dodge, and then everyone who's around him at the range 1 gets 1 suppression token. However, very cool here is that even though the units may have already suppression or they will receive a new, it doesn't matter because you skip the rally step and all the units cannot be suppressed or panicked this round. Now, if this is already, saying something, there is a command card that Director Krennic has called, the Annihilation Looms, which pretty much hands out every unit on the battlefield, both friendly and enemy, hands out suppressions depending on number of rounds it has gone through. So if you really need to counter the director and you are playing the Shadow Collective and you want to keep your guys on points and score, definitely play this. Definitely try to gauge when the Empire player would play the Annihilation Looms. You can pretty much hard counter that card with His Eminence. Because remember, when the unit doubles its amount of suppression value, it's panicked. Yes, it's panicked, but with this card, they are not. So that is definitely a highlight for me. And of course, with Garsak, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, no, yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt, but yeah, even with that card, if you had to Dauntless or Compel with Gar Saxon or Dauntless with the Black Suns, and now they've got like 2 suppression, and now with this card, or 3 suppression, I should say, and now with this card, you've given them an extra one, then, so last round, maybe they had 2 suppression, and now you had to Dauntless, that gives them 3, at the end of the round, you'll take 1 off, and at the beginning of the round, you'll give them a 3rd one again. Well, now they can't be suppressed or panicked, so you still get your 2 actions because they can't be suppressed. So your first action could be recover, and then your second action could be to move into safety, and you still got your 2 actions, and now you've got no suppression. So that card can really do a lot, and it has helped me out quite a bit whenever the Mandalorians were suppressed, and I needed them to take an aim and shoot or recover and move into something. So yeah.
Yeah, and definitely I would say the second one would be the Gar Saxons Marked for Elimination, which pretty much mean need Din Djarin dead. This is a perfect way to make sure that you at least bring. Yes, the reason why I bring up Din Djarin because Din Djarin is one of the very great operatives that can be around in both Rebels and Empire. But if you really need to stop anyone or make sure that he or she is dead, this is a great card to use. And I believe this is the only instance where Shadow Collective has access to the observation tokens. So this is also something to keep in mind. Hopefully, and we're gonna talk about it in the next segment, they will maybe get more chance to hand out observation tokens. We're gonna save the conversation for later. So that's what I would say. There are like my two command cards, which are like cool. And of course, would be a disservice to not highlight the generic command cards that you can bring for your faction, which are deploy, the aggression, and the discretion. They pretty much. I want to say the aggression, discretion are kind of the same, but they are in a sense that you can pretty much not give out the orders. You give them out to someone else, and those units will gain an extra dodge for discretion and the extra aim for aggression. And of course, you get deploy, which you can pretty much, I believe uh, it says like you can choose one order token from your order pool and put it face down here. And then, of course, you need to shuffle your tokens to make sure that you play a fair game. And then you can take a look at this token at any time. So, for example, if you put like a commander or like operative or maybe something else, and you really need to play that token at a specific time, you can, instead of pulling from the bag, you can play it. You can play it instead. This is something similar to Director Krennic with his, I believe it's the Voracious Ambitions, where you put your few order tokens on the card, and you get to pick and play those instead. It's something similar, but for the mercenaries only. And yeah, that's what I would say are kind of like the highlights of the command cards.
Yeah, and the other good thing about Ploy is that the difference between that one and Voracious Ambition is that you actually get to look at that token and choose what you want, versus Voracious Ambition, you pick 3 random. So this one really allows you to kind of make sure you know what you want to play and kind of keep your opponent second guessing, especially if you are bringing like Cad Bane or Bosk. You can put their order token in your hand, benefit from the independent, and then when you need to go with them, you can go with them immediately. So it is and like I said, since you can bring Maul, Cad, and Bosk, they're not going to be able to figure out whose order token it is until it's too late.
Yeah, and one more thing before we move on, I will highlight Cad Bane again. Once again, his command cards remain the same. So if you want, you can play his I Make the Rules now. You can divulge, and you can pretty much set up the 3 little Cad Bane tokens, which are unique to him, and you can pretty much play an extra mini game, or you can play like a mind game with your opponent and figure it out where Cad Bane can appear. One of them is a smoke and mirrors. Nothing happens if the opponent reveals. The other is an explosive, which is the blast, critical 4, impact 2, and suppressive. So don't step on that. And the third token, if you reveal it, that's where the Cad Bane shows up. Obviously, you don't have to divulge, but it's a very, I would say, an underrated gameplay mechanic that's in this game, and I hope that in the future it will be utilized more, because it's pretty much the only one in the game. No other commander operative has it. Would you like to add something?
No, yeah, I think that's perfect for Cad Bane. I think he's still got a lot to offer. Now, I know that the Shadow Collective is the only no okay, so the Shadow Collective has a box that you can buy, which is why I also think it's perfect for beginners, because if you wanted to, you could technically go out and buy the starter box for Shadow Collective, which will come with, I think a set of pikes, a Black Sun, and a Mandalorian unit, and also come with Maul, and you can pose Maul in 2 different ways, which kind of like really helps in determining like, oh, you can magnetize these things, and oh, well, today I want the dark saber, and or no, I only want the double bladed lightsaber. And this will come with Rook Cast in the Battle Force box. So if you really wanted her, you could. And I think it's cheaper to get like 3 or 4 boxes of these, probably up to 4. And then if you wanted more pikes or Black Suns, you could just buy them individually. But yeah, it's so nice to be able to get that box.
Yeah. Speaking of the box, something that is very important to say, due to the Shadow Collective being so far not yet a complete faction, but it's a work in progress, it's not as popular. Well, it's still popular, but it's not as popular as other faction. If you look at like the Longshanks or the other websites that host tournaments, you will see quite a lot of all the factions, and then you will see one or maybe like three players who play Shadow Collective. I remember from the LVO I played in my bracket last year. No, actually this year in January. There was just everyone with like there was a lot of Empire, a lot of Rebels, a lot of clones, a lot of Separatists, and there were six Shadow Collective players, and I got to play one of them. Obviously, I lost the game because Darth Maul, but yeah, it's definitely when you pull up with the Shadow Collective to the table, people will definitely take a notice because there aren't that many yet Shadow Collective players, so it will definitely stand out. So that's a plus. Now, when it comes to the availability of the box itself, like all the other boxes and units, there will be slightly hard to find because AMG is re-releasing all the models. And I believe Shadow will have pulled up the roadmap with the releases. And Shadow Collective is also there. However, before we started recording, I looked around. I found boxes on eBay for an okay price, and also for some other secondhand things like for some secondhand like the frontline gaming. This is also going to get us into the how you actually build an army. It's definitely I would recommend getting at least one of these boxes. This is going to give you a solid start. Sadly, or maybe I'm not sure, but I think the with the recon game mode, is Shadow Collecting getting a specific box or not? I'm not exactly sure right now.
I don't think so. I think this is going to be the box until I guess they update everything. But
Yeah,
yeah, if you can find it on eBay or something like that, it's worth it. It's worth it to buy.
yeah. Even grab two of them, and then you don't have to magnetize your maul. You can just have one maul with the dark saber and the lightsaber, and then the other maul with the two bladed one. And then of course, even I would like to also say this: if you are thinking about this as your second army and you already have an army like Empire or Separatists, you can buy this box and you can pretty much test out if you like playing mercenaries in your faction. This is what I said at the beginning. At the when we talked Empire, the other factions, like you can bring these guys into your other armies, and you can test out the different synergies what they can have with stormtroopers or riot guard or B2s. It's definitely a good also thing to be your first army, but also it could be your second army. However, do note if this is your first army and there is 11 units in total, you might grow slightly bored of it quicker. But there are, of course, great things you can figure out, the synergies and everything. But just keep it in mind, it's still, I don't want to say a new faction, but it's a faction work in progress. However, there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and I'm sure that Shadow is going to have it pulled up right now. The Shadow Collective, after long talks from us players to the Atomic Mass Flight to the AMG, they're going to give reinforcements. Would you like to this faction and of course to other main factions as well? Would you like to talk about the Shadow Collective specific units that will be coming to this faction?
Yeah, so the Shadow Collective is going to get some addition to the battle force. It is basically the Weequay Pirates. So the Weequay Pirates will be able to be used in Shadow Collective, as far as we understand from AMG, and they are going to provide quite a punch, according to AMG as well. That the fact that they had to change cover was, I think, because of them. So they're going to be really, really good at melee. As you can see, most of them have their knives out already and they're ready to go ham. And they're also probably going to be really good at kind of close range with their pistols. And it looks like they've got one guy with a longer range gun and one guy with a melee staff, electro staff. So you're going to be able to kind of put whatever you want with these. With these guys, you're going to be able to kind of do what you want. As you see, Hondo Anako is on there, or Hondo Anaka, my bad, is on there, and he can't technically go into the Shadow Collective Battle Force, but he can go in any other faction. And he might not be the most competitive, but he's going to be a very fun unit to play. And you can make this Hondo or any just generic leader for the Weequay Pirates. So this is going to be a very, very good upgrade for the Battle Force, I think, and it's going to offer quite a lot. The second thing that is going to be coming to the Shadow Collective is the speeder tank. So as you saw, the only heavy that the Battle Force has is a tank, like just a bus, I should say. But now you're going to be able to have a more offensive capable tank. And as you can see, you can choose to have the Pikes or the Black Suns or kind of like one of the Swoop Rider type guys on there, as well as the Weequay. So a lot of customization, a lot of optimization. So if you like hobbying, which we'll talk about in a little bit, this is going to be a really fun piece. And I think they hinted at it being a transport, possibly. Mm-hmm. So this is going to be a very fun transport, and it's probably going to be very fast with the fact that these things were able to book it in the show. And it looks like it's only going to have that one, big heavy gun that it's going to be able to use. And I think this is going to be a very great addition to the Battle Force and offer quite a lot for Shadow Collective. What do you think?
Definitely, with the if it turns out, first of all, we will speculate and speculate on what these things could possibly have. So if we speculate here and we actually get it right, you need to thank us because we spoke it into the existence. So then just come back to the video, give us a like or a comment. It's like, yeah, these two guys were correct. We are getting the transport and speeder 3 or something. But what I want to say is that if this is the case, that this would be a second transport vehicle, the only other faction that currently has 2 transports available is Empire, and that's the Graf tank and the patrol ship. So the Empire will actually have a competition here, and I would say that I can definitely see this second vehicle to be the faster equivalent, but I'm very curious about the pilot selection. I do want to see what they're going to bring out. I really just don't want them to copy the pilots from the bus, because they kind of did a similar thing for the weapon profiles for the patrol ship, and for the patrol ship in both the Republic and Empire, and also for the tank, where you get your high velocity, your armor piercing, and your bunker buster. So I'm really hoping that AMG doesn't just copy and paste the pilots and other service upgrades that are there, and just they kind of like make their own unique pirate themed. So that's my hopeful prediction for the vehicle. And I would like to see be the pirates that will come. Hopefully there will be also there will be kind of like the hybrid of the Pikes and Black Suns, as they will be more into melee. So I hope they're gonna have some of a more stronger melee capabilities. But of course, hopefully they'll have the defense abilities. For example, I hope they will have a red save for Black Suns. They will like the crossbreed of Pikes and Black Suns. So we will get like a best of both worlds. Hopefully, that's my prediction. Well, and then we kind of know what the handle will have. However, we will not. However, I will not get married to the stats that he has right now, because he's not out yet and things are subject to change. But I do hope they will keep him as he is right now, with some minor tweaks, because the X thing that he has, from what I heard, will actually match the number of pips on the command card. So if he plays a 3 pip command card, he will have I know what he had like luck X. I'm not exactly sure right now, but he will have luck 3 or he will have dodge 3 or something. So I hope they really keep that because it's a very cool mechanic, and they expand on the inner workings of this faction, because what I think what this faction does best are the themes. For example, Maul starts with the wound as he comes onto the table, which I would say is very thematic because I don't want to say the beginning of the show, but when the Clone Wars started to include Maul, he survived his fall to the trash chute or the air vent where Obi-Wan sent him down. So he starts with the wound. He had to be repaired. So that's very cool. And then of course the Black Suns and Pikes are, syndicates, and they don't really like working each other unless they absolutely have to. So that's why you have the different capos, the capos and the other guy, the captain, whatever his name is, and they can only like work them two and them two together. Nah, this is just criminals and mafia trying to survive the onslaught of the other factions. So yeah, that's what I would say. Like keep on the theme, keep on the fun that this faction can offer.
Yeah, I think that if we're gonna take a look at the Weekway Pirates, I would assume that they're probably gonna have white saves, because they really don't have much armor, but they're gonna be kind of like rebels in my opinion. So like surging white saves with some massive firepower to kind of compensate for the fact that they're gonna be like kind of fragile, I would assume. And for the tank, honestly, I'm not sure. I don't know if it would have red saves or white saves. If it has white saves, it'll surge. If it's red saves, it's probably going to be lower health, but and not surge. So I would assume that that it might have like 6 health or 5 health if it's going to be a red save. But yeah, like you were saying earlier, this could probably be. There's only 2 transports in another faction empire, so this one I think might be an open transport. But transport's not going to really matter. If we're going back to old Legion, open transport and closed transport is what we had, but transport nowadays is all just the same. And I think that the pilots will be the exact same, with the fact that you can have the frenzied gunner or the pilot that gives the suppression out and has allies of convenience. And I don't know if it will actually have any ordinances. I think it's going to be kind of like I think it's only going to have its own gun, just whatever that is. And it might not be fixed front because obviously it looks like it's a turret, so you could change side to side. Just similar to the bus, doesn't have fixed front or anything. So I think it's going to be a very fun addition. It looks like it will be very fun to model. The fact that it's going to have so much armor on there and some big old engines. So, and the fact that it's got changeable, characters that you can put in the turret gun. So, yeah, I think that it'll be probably speed 2, if not speed 3, and that it could have. I'm gonna say red saves because I want it to have red saves. I want it to be harder to kill.
Oh, we all. Yes. Yeah, it would
Yes.
be like a nice balance. Just like you can bring us the bus, which is a white save but speed 1, or you can bring the red save uh thing that's going to be a speed 2 maybe or a speed 3. Kind of like a nice balance to figure it out. How do the bases look like? Do you think the new edition will have a smaller base than the speeder truck, or will it have like a on par? Because that will also factor into its speed, and probably might even have like weak sides, 1 or 2. That also could be something to consider because Graph Tank has a weak side too. So maybe if they mirror it kind of based on that vehicle, I don't know. We will see. Do we know the approximate release date for these reinforcements?
Yeah. So let's see. I think it. Okay. So it looks like it might have the same base as the Gav tank, or maybe the bus, which I think have the exact same, but definitely not the insanely huge Persuader tank, the snail tank. It's not going to be that big, but I think for the Weekway Pirates and all of that stuff, we're probably looking at, I would say, next year at some point in time. Because let's see, The Weequay Pirates and the Speeder Tank are going to come out Q1 of 2026. So we've got a good little while until we get them. So lots of preparation for us to take. So you'll have plenty of time if you do get into the Shadow Collective to paint up your Shadow Collective, get used to them, and then whenever they come out, you'll have a solid battle force that you already have collected and now can add to.
Absolutely, yeah. And that pretty much, covers the faction, but we are not done yet. We are not done yet with the video, so don't click away. What we are going to do right now, we are going to circle. There is a reason why we did not start with the profiles at the beginning. And the reason is that we are going to, in the second part of the program, we are going to do like a quick summary of all the other factions as well. We're gonna go back and I'm gonna briefly summarize the profiles, and then we're gonna talk about the briefly the end. We might even provide like maybe like a sneaking like a tip or a trick that we did not talk about for that specific faction. So yeah, with that in mind, you probably know all of these profiles by now because these videos will be in the playlist. So we have three profiles. We have Timmy, who's the experience-based player. He likes the big stuff. He enjoys the hobby aspect, but he wants to experience something big, something cool. And he's also I don't want to call him a casual, but he cares more about the social aspect of the game as well. Then we have Johnny. Johnny is your self-expression, the combo guy. This is the guy who loves to figure it out synergies. He wants to make also when it comes to the hobbying, he wants to make his own dudes. He wants to do some cool maybe paint jobs. And of course, when it comes to the list building, Johnny's inside of us sometimes gain that dopamine boost or that win because maybe if we make that perfect list already, we kind of won, and it doesn't matter if this list, sucks on the table. It matters that we made it and it's unique. And then, of course, the last profile is Spike. Spike is the competitive player. He cares more about the metas, but he is also the kind of player who does the math on things. He wants to figure it out if playing a specific thing or a specific faction is worth the time. Spike is the guy who doesn't like variants. He is all about pure skill. And something I would like to add to the Spike. I mentioned that he plays metas, yes, but he also plays unique lists that can be like it could be something that Spike would say just like, all right, let's make a meme list and let's win at Crucible or at LVO. That is a Spike thing to do. But he will also play a meta list. Spike doesn't really like simplicity, but he will play a simple list if he's meta. So that's something very important to understand about Spike. So with these profiles now hammered down for the final time, we're gonna talk about the factions. So let's start with the Empire. We mentioned that Empire is a strong, obviously, let's say this, every faction has a teamy appeal because AMG needs to sell the box, it needs to appeal to our inner child. But some of these profiles have a more focus to these factions than the others. So for the Empire, we talked about how it is very Timmy, Johnny appeal. Spike can find some competitive lists to be made, but this is not really his faction. Obviously, as I said, he will find some competitive lists to be made. But this is a Johnny Timmy town. Johnny loves to figure out the synergies because Empire plays kind of like your standard faction, like your standard military. So you need to figure out coordinations between your corps, between your special forces, support assets, vehicles. All these things can have beautiful synergies with one another. And Timmy is here for Darth Vader. Rest in peace, Palpatine. You will be missed, but he was also for here too. And then, of course, there are the newer guys like Aiden or maybe Agent Callus. as seen in Rebels. So there is a big teamy appeal here as well. Then for the Rebels, we talk how Rebels are more of a Johnny Spike. Obviously, Timmy is there as present because, Luke Skywalker, Leia, Han Solo, Chewbacca, Din Djarin, all these guys are big sellers for the faction. But more, who's gonna find more enjoyment here is Johnny and Spike. Spike will find the enjoyment here because this is the current meta faction as of 2025. However, things can change. But also, Spike will like it here. He will do the math, and he will realize that this faction is very efficiently point based, like points per unit. So all your core units, your special forces, your vehicles, and your support assets that are relatively cheaper to allow you to fully deck out your heroes, which are the primary concern for this faction. And then you have all the other units to support them, take the suppression away, and then throw themselves on the points and try to score. Then we will go to the newer factions, which is the Republic. I would say Republic is currently the high would get the award for the highest number of all profiles. Pretty much all three profiles find their home here. I would rate this like Spike 7 because it's a very it's very strong and very competitive right now. Johnny will find enjoyment. As we talked about, there are so many great synergies. You can figure it out just with your clone, just with your basic clones alone. And then Timmy will, which is also a 7, and then Timmy will have, Anakin Skywalker, ARC Troopers, Obi-Wan, Yoda, Chewbacca, R2-D2, Padme, all these big guys. But very important for Timmy here, Timmy will have to hitch a ride off the either Johnny or Spike and figure it out the synergies, or he will copy the list that they have so he can also have fun, because for a newer player the Republic can be slightly overwhelming with the amount of choices and customization they have available. So but he's also very high. He's like, so it's Spike 7, Johnny 7, and Timmy is like 6.5. But once he figures out the synergies, he's also to 7. He's on board, ready to play the clones. Then we have Separatists. Separatists are definitely we also have a very, very high profiles here, but it's not as high as clones. Obviously, all three profiles, our inners will find the enjoyment. Timmy will find great enjoyment. He wants to, as I said, Timmy wants to experience something big. As we mentioned, Separatist invasion. Yes, the right way to play the Separatist invasion is to, bring your Grievous, some Magna Guards, Droidekas, tank, B1s, B2s. But the true heart of Separatist invasion is that you bring 100 B1s, the tank, the super tech, and you just swarm the objective. So this is what Timmy likes. He likes the big factor, and of course there are pretty strong villains or heroes depending on front. There's a Count Dooku. There are the both super tactical droids. Obviously Darth Maul in the operative side. There is Asajj, Cad Bane. Then Johnny will greatly enjoy the synergies because he wants to figure out the best way to play this faction in more of a list building manner. So he wants to figure it out. All right, he can figure out the AI stuff. He can keep certain units, in the AI range, or maybe he will decide to keep some units outside of the range and will give them, for example, the security droid that removes the AI requirement. And then Spike will do the math here as well, and he will find this faction to be competitive because there are also very strong lists to be made. But he's on the slightly lower end. And now we come to the Shadow Collective. And honestly, I think what we can do, Shadow, is that once Shadow Collective gets its reinforcements, we will revisit this faction and we will see how it plays. Hopefully we will get more Shadow Collective representation on the tables. And yeah, I would say that about covers it. Would you like to add anything to my assessment?
No, I think that was a pretty good assessment, and yeah, no, I think that that works out pretty well.
Yeah, and with that, that concludes the introductory videos for all these factions. Obviously, we have quite a few more videos in store, so stay tuned. And I'll obviously would like to thank you, Shadow, for having me for all these 5 videos that we sit here and talked for a long time. And I'll let you take it away with the YouTube pleasantries.
Yeah. Well, thanks for watching, everybody. Hopefully, you enjoyed the Shadow Collective overview. And if you've ever got any other questions, feel free to kind of like reach out and talk to us. But yeah, that is really it. So hopefully, you guys enjoyed it, and y'all make sure to subscribe and leave a comment to get entered in to win for the Shadow Collective order tokens, and join the Discord to get extra ways to enter in to win. And yeah, that is it. So thanks a lot, guys, and thank you, Voidwalker, for joining us and talking a lot about this. And we will all see you in other videos. Y'all take it easy.
See you guys around.